Hello, students. Good to see you today as we begin our next topic in science. And that topic is seed plants. We have been spending the last couple of topics learning about primitive plants and land plants and the adaptations required that plants need to fulfill in order to survive and flourish on the land. And today we take it a step further. We take it a step further as we begin our topic on seed plants. So let's get to it. Let's be sure your books are open and we are ready to copy our notes down. So seed plants. You have watched a video on seed plants already. Some interesting information in that video. And perhaps some words that were unusual and unfamiliar to you. Well, after today's lesson, those words and terms will make perfect sense, I am sure. So let's begin. When you think of seed plants, what comes to mind? Maybe seeds? Well, there are many different kinds of seeds that exist in the world of seed plants. And here are just a couple of examples. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, I'm sure many, if not all of you, are familiar with these seeds. Those little white flowers, actually they're yellow flowers that then mature into the white fluffy stuff that you may pick out of your lawn and blow real hard on and blow those little white tufts all over the place. Yes, I'm referring to dandelions. Yes, dandelions, a very common plant. Most people call them weeds, but there might be some benefit to dandelions as well. They're edible. The Russians during World War II actually used the sap from dandelion plants to make rubber for their tanks. They are lots of fun to pick up out of the ground and pop the heads off of. And they're great for blowing the white fluffy stuff. But if you look at the white fluffy stuff really closely, you'll notice they're almost like little parachutes connected to tiny seeds. Yeah, there are lots and lots of seeds on one dandelion plant, which is why if you're really, really concerned about weeds in your lawn, one dandelion can wreak havoc because there are so many seeds that accompany it. And if a good breeze comes along and blows these seeds and disperses them around your yard, you're going to get a lot of potential dandelion plants growing from those seeds. Over to the right, we see another example. I don't know if any of you have gardens at home, vegetable gardens, or if you just like to eat food and maybe you like green peppers or other kinds of peppers. Hot pepper. Oh, I can't handle hot peppers, but I like green peppers. I like on my pizza along with onions. Yeah, that's good. Maybe some red peppers in a tomato sauce. But hot peppers, no way. It'll burn a hole right in my stomach. But if you were ever to cut open a pepper, you'll notice that they are also loaded with seeds. Lots and lots of seeds in there. So here's just a couple of examples. And recently you've been working on growing some seeds in the classroom, and perhaps your group has noticed some germination here of your seeds. And you'll notice, and we'll get to this later in this topic, but notice the seeds from left to right here as they're germinating and growing. You get one part that's going down and one part that's going up. And no matter how you plant the seed, there's always a part that grows down. We call that the roots. And there's always a part that goes up, and we call that the stem. How does a seed know which way to grow? Sounds like a good question, if you know what I mean. And I'm going to keep you in suspense until the end of our topic to discuss that in a little bit more detail. But let's get back to our notes here regarding seed plants. Seed plants, like other land plants, they do not require standing water to reproduce. In other words, you won't find seed plants growing in the ocean. You generally don't find seed plants requiring a body of water to grow within. Now, I know there are some seed plants that grow in aquatic environments, say lily pads, for instance, but most seed plants do not require standing water to reproduce, which is unlike some of the primitive plants we've talked about before. This is one of the great adaptations of seed plants. Another interesting characteristic of seed plants, which is unlike all of the previous plants that we've talked about so far, is that they encase or encapsulate, they enclose their young plants to protect and feed them. Kind of in a similar way as humans. You know, when humans, you get a mommy and a daddy, and they love each other very much, they might reproduce and produce a baby. And that baby is carried within the mother for 9 months. And the mother is basically encasing that young human to protect them until the day they are born. And when that baby is born, it comes awake, and it is probably not fully clothed and dressed and has a head full of hair like this American girl here. But baby humans. What's that? Oh, you're camera shy. Oh, I'm sorry. All right. This American girl is camera shy, so I'm going to put her away. But humans encase their young, and the higher the level the organism, the more protection there is to the young to keep it safe until it is ready to be independent. And so we see the first signs of this as we are continuing our tour through the various kingdoms of organisms on planet Earth with seed plants. Seed plants encase their young to protect them and to feed them. And if you look at this little picture here, look at the little baby plant. Isn't that so cute? So let's zoom in a little bit more on the structure of the seed. For any seed, no matter how unusual it may be shaped, and we have a lot of unusually shaped seeds. Here's a seed that looks very much like the diagram, but there are other kinds of seeds that you might be familiar with, like corn seeds. Let me show you a really interesting looking seed. Look at this one. I like this one. If I can get it out of this little container. Oh my! Can I get it out of here? Come on, little seed. This little seed. This little seed went to market. No, this little seed went wee all the way home. This little seed doesn't want to come out of the container. All right, here we go. I finally got it. Believe it or not, this is also a seed. Can you see it? Look at that. Itty bitty, tiny little weird looking seed. That's a marigold seed. There are lots of different kinds of seeds, big seeds and little seeds. Let me show you a little seed here. Look at this one. Look at this one on the end of my finger. Oops. Uh-oh, I lost the seed. I better not sneeze. Where'd it go? Oh, I don't see it. Oh, well. I'll find it later. Lots of different seeds. Seeds can be big. Seeds can be small. If you've ever had an avocado, big seeds inside of an avocado. But regardless of what kind of seed you're talking about, all seeds have 3 basic structures. Number 1, they have a seed coat. Like I have a lab coat on right now, and this lab coat protects me from chemicals and flames in the laboratory. If it's really cold outside, which this time of year it certainly is, you wear a winter coat to protect you from the cold. If it's raining outside, you might wear a rain coat to protect you from the water. Well, seeds are designed to have a seed coat to protect them from the environmental elements outside. And what are they protecting? Well, first and foremost, they are protecting that young plant. And we call that young plant an embryo. Just like humans begin as an embryo, so do plants. Plants begin as an embryo. And if all goes well, when the seed germinates, that embryo, that young plant, will begin to grow. And during its initial phases of life, that embryo is very dependent upon one other material that is found in the seed, and that is called the cotyledon, or the stored food. The meat of the seed, if you will, is the food of the seed. And that food, that cotyledon, is designed to provide the initial nutrients for that embryo, that developing young plant. But we humans, and other animals for that matter as well, we like to utilize that cotyledon, that stored food, to use ourselves. We are omnivores. We eat both plants and animal meat. We have the capacity to do so. Even if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, you still have the capacity, your body physiologically, to eat meat. But if you eat plants, one of the parts of a plant that we frequently eat are the seeds. The seeds have a coat on the outside, which oftentimes is undigestible. If you eat too much corn without chewing, you know what I mean. And the inside has the young plant, the embryo, and the stored food is the real reason why we typically eat seeds, is because of that energy. That food energy is a form of chemical energy that our bodies need in order to stay alive. So that stored food, or that cotyledon, is something designed for the embryo, but we use as well. So let's move on from the seed structure to specifically this one part, the cotyledon. After this lesson, you're going to be watching this little video on cotyledon, so I'll allow the video to expand further on that. But while we're here, I want to generally discuss with you the two types of cotyledon. You see, there's what is referred to as the monocot and the dicot. What do they mean? Well, I'm going to tell you. Look at the first word, monocot. Mono begins with the prefix M-O-N-O. Mono. Mono. What does the prefix mono mean? You probably have a very good guess if you're just looking at our page here in our notes. Mono means one. A monocot is a plant that has one cotyledon. I'll give you a quick example of one. This one that I've been referring to here, the corn seed. A corn seed is a type of seed that comes from a plant that is referred to as a monocot, because the seeds have only one cotyledon on the inside. And we'll be discussing more about some of the differences between these two types of plants and the seeds that they produce in a little while. But for now, know that monocot means one cotyledon. In fact, in your notes, if you haven't done so already, underline mono. Underline the word one. and maybe put a circle between the two so that, and a line between the two so that when you are studying your notes, you remember that mono means one means mono. Second one are called the dicots. The prefix di has nothing to do with death, but it has to do with the number 2. Just like bi means 2, so does di. Bi and di both mean 2. So a dicot, which is short for dicotyledon, means that a seed has 2 cotyledons and it can be divided or split in 2. The other seed that I showed you, this bean seed here, it's almost too green, and the green screen effects are kind of crazy here. But if you look at this seed, this kind of a bean seed, you can actually split this seed in 2. And there are other seeds that split in 2 as well, maybe some that you're familiar with. But if it can be split in 2, it is called a dicot or dicotyledon. So remember, di means 2. Again, in your notes, underline the prefix di, underline the word 2, maybe circle them, put a line between the 2 so that when you're studying, you remember monocot 1, dicot 2. Now, there's another way to tell the difference between a monocot plant and a dicot plant, and that is by looking at the flowers. Who doesn't like a pretty flower, right? Flowers are absolutely gorgeous, some more beautiful than others. And when I was young, now I didn't do this myself, but I know it was popular among some folks when I was younger to take a flower and maybe you were experiencing some potential young love and you were hesitant to maybe express your feelings toward another person. And you would find different ways of trying to rationalize and delay the onset of introducing yourself to the person, saying hi and telling them, hey, I think you're cute, kind of a thing. And so some kids would take flowers, and generally this was probably more the girls than the boys, and they would start removing the petals from the flowers and say, he loves me. He loves me not. He loves me. He loves me not. And they would continue to go around the flower until they got the last petal. And it was that last petal that told you the truth about your feelings for them and their feelings for you, even though you haven't even talked to them yet. Now, if you were smart and you paid attention in 7th grade science, and you knew the difference between a monocot and a dicot, then you could strategically choose the flower to give you the answer that you really wanted to hear. Why is that? Well, let me show you. Monocots, by nature, have flowers and petals that are arranged in multiples of 3. So let's count these petals. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is 6 a multiple of 3? In other words, does 3 divide into the number 6 evenly? You bet your bottom dollar it does, because 3 times 2 equals 6. So, because the petals are found in a number that is a multiple of 3, it's a monocot. Let's look at this blue flower here. Let's start at the top and start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is 9 a multiple of 3? I hope you said yes, because 3 times 3 is 9. So if you've got a flower with 6 petals or 9 petals, it's a multiple of 3, and it is a monocot, which also means the seeds produced by the monocot will have seeds that are monocots. There's only one cotyledon in their seeds. Now, what about dicots? Well, let's look at dicots. You can tell a plant that is a dicot also based on the number of petals in the flower of that particular plant. If they are in multiples of either 4 or 5, then the seeds produced are dicotyledons. Let's check out these examples. So if we look at this flower, let's count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is 5 a multiple of 4 or 5? Yeah. 5 times 1 is 5. So the seeds produced by this flowering plant will have seeds with 2 cotyledons, dicots. Let's check out this flower. Let's start at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is 8 a multiple of 4 or 5? Yes, it is. It's a multiple of 4 because 4 times 2 equals 8. So again, the seeds of this flowering plant would have 2 cotyledons. Let's finally look at this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Would this one be a monocot or a dicot? And why? Very good. And now it's quiz time. It's quiz time. I want to quiz you, and we'll discuss these together in class. And I am going to point to a flower, and I want you to tell me whether you think it's a monocot or dicot and why. So if we need to pause the video to discuss each of these, that would be great. Okay, so I'm going to point to this flower here. Is it a monocot or dicot and why? Hopefully you said a monocot because it has 6 petals and 6 is a multiple of 3. How about this pretty purple flower here? I'll give you a moment. Monocot or dicot? Hopefully you said dicot because there are 8 petals and 8 is a multiple of 4. Let's check out the next one. Ooh, this is a tiger lily. If you look at this really closely, can you see the tiger or the lion face in this flower? Isn't that cool? Do you see the face? That's pretty wild. All right, but is it a monocot or a dicot? Hopefully you said monocot because it has 3 petals and 3 is a multiple of, well, 3. All right, the pretty pink one down here, monocot or dicot? Hopefully you said it is a dicot because it has 5 petals and 5 is a multiple of 5. Let's check out this one as well, monocot or dicot? Hopefully you're catching on by now. 5 petals divisible by 5, it is a dicot. And finally, let's look at this one here. What is it? Monocot or dicot? All right, hopefully you said monocot because 6 petals is divisible by 3. So if you wanted to play that game, he or she loves me, they love me not, they love me, they love me not, make sure you know the difference between a monocot and a dicot. Because if you want that other person to love you, you've got to know how many petals to count, or you're going to come up with the wrong answer and you will be disappointed. So, a little bit of knowledge in science might save your love life. You never know. Not to mention the fact that flowers make great gifts. All right, let's finish up with a tough quiz. Here we go. We're going to end with this picture here. Is this flower a monocot or a dicot, and why? And I'm not going to give you the answer in this video. We'll have to discuss it together in class. So take your time and figure it out. Monocot or dicot? And until next time, I'll say bye-bye.